Technology, especially our phones, has a very strong negative impact on our attention span and our social interactions. In the past, technology used to be a way to connect more with your friends versus like if you couldn't see your friends every day, then you would go and you would call them and you would contact them, and that would be a way to connect closer with your friends. However, now social media, online apps, they are becoming a replacement to your real world friends. Some people are now refusing to go out, into the real world and meet new people, have new interactions in that case, and they would prefer to have the interactions online. While all of those aren't completely negative, I think that it is more beneficial to be going out, putting yourself out there, and having those new experiences. With the way that the technology is grabbing people's attention, though, it's becoming much more enticing to stay on our devices. For example, if something unpleasant happens to you in your day-to-day life, that's an issue. You have to deal with it. You have to talk about it. Versus online, it's very, very easy to get rid of, but you're not really solving the problem. You're just making it go away. So instead of using technology to build connections and consume relevant information, we can use our time to look more at useful information and media. So this has a very strong impact with the younger generation. Moving on to how technology affects your attention span, technology, specifically apps like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, they're known for giving you short bursts of dopamine. And these short bursts of dopamine get you really addicted onto these apps. Younger kids are especially susceptible to this. A younger kid who stays on these apps are gonna get his dopamine receptors fried, because he just keeps, he's gonna get locked into this. For younger kids, their frontal lobes are still developing, so they're way more susceptible to being changed by their environment. That's why on YouTube and TikTok, it's commonly known, if you want to be successful, if you want to do big things on these apps, you target the younger generation, because they're more susceptible to these changes. It's easier to grab their attention and to keep them there. For the older generation, it's much more difficult to keep them locked into this information. So these kids are constantly experiencing these dopamine hits, and then when they're not experiencing these hits, they're having difficulty with focusing, they're having difficulty with schoolwork. This can result in ADHD, it results in decreased work ethic. So their patience and focus is decreasing, causing attention spans to decrease. All of this regarding technology is tying in with each other. So earlier when I talked about your social connections, the social connections that you're making online, even if you're calling, video calls, etc., you won't be able to make those same in-person real-life connections. And those short dopamine hits that you may get from a quick text message interaction doesn't compare to the real-life experience that you'll be getting. Same thing goes with these apps. The short dopamine hits that you're going to be getting from these apps aren't going to affect you the same way as going out and doing a big meaningful activities. These YouTube shorts, these TikToks, it's just a quick hit. Once that dopamine hit is over, you're gonna start needing much more. And this decrease in attention span is shown because for the Gen Z's average attention span, it's 8 seconds, which it's gone down like roughly 5-6 seconds from previous generations. Millennials are doing a little better, but they're experiencing like similar things. This even affects the way we make decisions. For Dr. Strayer's research, he did research on texting and driving, and then he compared it to drunk driving. And he found that the level of impairment of the visual activity was the same level as having a blood alcohol content of 0.08. So you being on your phone is comparable to you drinking and driving. As mentioned with kids, while their frontal lobes is still developing, that doesn't mean that adults' frontal lobes aren't being affected as well. For adults, it's always getting overloaded with information. and that means that there's fewer resources that they can put into decision making. Adults specifically need to have the energy, need to have the brain power to be making, thoughtful decision making. If you're not if you're not at your full capacity to be making good decisions, the consequences of that, in Reggie's case with the car accident, or just like socially how you feel, how you go about the world, it will just have an overall like negative impact on your life.